4:30 in the morning to prove that I was actually up. Okay, 5 o'clock, day one, on time for the plane. Still got an hour and a half until we take off, but made it through security, made it through all our stuff, got our boarding passes, ready to go. And I cannot tell you how much easier it is for me to stay up till 5 o'clock than get up at 5 o'clock. Okay, here's Art, my partner in crime. What do you think of this guy and this trip
What do I think
to the middle of nowhere?
I can't wait. And we're going to have a lot of fun looking at these cars. Hope we don't break our neck climbing over them, but yeah, I think we're going to have a great time. Looking at all the cars we need to buy to start our new business. And of course, we're not telling you where it's at. You're going to have to guess. How's that?
It's not California. It's a really nice highway though. After landing in North Dakota, we drove halfway to Canada and passed by a house with a Chevy 2 Nova sitting in the yard. If you have to travel, stay somewhere nice, and if it's free, even better. I am originally from Seattle, but have not been there in 30 years, so these hour-long sunsets at 10 p.m. were hard to get used to. So we came to North Dakota because some friends had moved up here and told us about an old wrecking yard lush with vintage cars. We were searching for El Dorado, the city of gold, not the car. But an El Dorado would have been nice to find also. Okay gang, so here we are near the Canadian border at a secret destination to look at some cars. 40 acres, 4,000 cars. Hopefully we can find one or two worth buying, but as you can see, it's not too bad of a view around here. It's a pretty open space, not too crowded. Just may take you a while to ride your bike to 7-Eleven. Sometimes you just gotta, get some eyes on for yourself and spend the time and money and research and do the recon to see what's out there and get the reality of it. Hopefully the reality will be very good and we'll find some neat cars, and if nothing else, you know what they say, the worst day fishing. Our first glimpse of the Walker Ranch as we came up the mile-long driveway was like Dorothy seeing the Emerald City for the first time. Hidden in a small valley miles from nowhere and decades in the making, this classic wrecking yard holds a lot of promise. The Walker Ranch is famous for having the largest collection of Edsels anywhere. With over 250 Ford Edsels named after Edsel Ford, this collection is a sight to behold. As you come over the hill, you see an oasis of cars. Thousands of cars without a building or neighbor in sight. In San Diego, wrecking yards are just that. They wreck cars. Space is so limited that no matter what car rolls into a wrecking yard, it is parted out and scrapped within a month. In places like this, they save cars. There are literally rows of 57 Chevys, the quintessential American hot rod, the godfather of muscle cars. You can't think about the birth of rock and roll without thinking of the 57 Chevy. With over 4,000 cars on the lot, Leroy Walker can tell you the story of how each and every one of them got there. If you look way off in the distance, you can see Leroy's nearest neighbor and home of the second largest dragline bulldozer, or steam shovel, in the country. The coal mines employ most of the people around here that don't make a living farming. I catch my first glimpse of Leroy Walker as he rides his mower back to the barn. At the top of the first hill, I admire a 53 Chevy bus that was probably used in this town when it was brand new. Next to the bus, I see my dad's favorite truck, the Chevy COE, also known as the Cabover. Man, I wish I had smell-o-vision right now. It just, even though it's really windy, just the smell of the grass, and the old guy was nice enough to mow the roads for us before we got here. I mean, just looking around and hearing the silence and the smell, and I mean, it's just like something out of a movie, which is kind of ironic because you're watching a TV show, but I mean, I haven't felt this way since I was a little kid in Seattle, and there's still that much, all the coolness just that surrounds me, and the open space that surrounds this coolness. I mean, it's just it's an oasis, you know? I guess that's the word I've been looking for. It's a car oasis, and it's just Americana that's disappearing, you know? This wouldn't be such a big deal if we still had, you know, real wrecking yards that saved cars until they were reused. The original recycling was rebuilding cars, you know? This proves it right here. These are not the throwaway cars that we have today. One of the first cars I see up close is a 64 Chevy 2 Nova. This is a money car, except for the fact that it has no doors and the hinges have been torched out of the car. Close by is a 57 GMC panel truck, another money maker, except for the fact that the panels have been cut up and it's missing too many pieces. As I start my trek across the 40-acre car oasis, I see some potentially great cars and trucks. Who could say no to a pink Cadillac? Unless it was a four-door. My eye catches a two-door in the grass, but a 47 Chevy is not worth taking back to San Diego. '57 Chevy wagons can be a good investment if they have all the parts. It costs under $500, and you don't have to spend $1,500 towing them home. History is all around this place, just not the kind of history that is going to make me any money. Finally, a car we can use. My buddy Art needs a front bumper for his Studebaker. To our chagrin, Leroy would not part with it. Shipping a bumper home is no problem. Buying a whole Studebaker bullet nose, especially a four-door, just doesn't make sense, or especially dollars. One car Art and I both liked because it was so different was this 48 Buick Ambulance, complete with a folding stretcher and a spare straight 8-cylinder head. With over 200 Edsels on hand, and being the head of the Edsel Club, I thought Leroy Walker had a fondness for Edsels, which he does. But the reason, turns out, is because they make great demolition derby cars. If you are going to live in isolation, this is the place to do it. No neighbors, no pop-ins, just nice his and her houses surrounded by the cars you love. Art fell in love with his 56 Willys wagon, but the caved-in roof put it just under the 50% mark of being worth a long haul and restoration. At the top of the hill, another one of my dream cars, a 65 Nova, two-door hardtop. Gutted and rusted beyond belief. I have to admit that the body was straight and the inside was in good shape, but it was not meant to be. As I looked back over the hill, I saw Frodo's house and imagined what it would be like to live in Hobbiton. This milk truck looked kinda cool and reminded me of the cow tractors on the movie Cars. All you need to do is chop the top and you've got a hot rod hauler. In the farthest corner of the ranch sits a lone Yugo. The metaphors here are just too deep to get into. When you are out here next to Big Sky Country, the term "go play in the yard" has an entirely new meaning. If you are looking for a four-door classic car, this is the place to find it. And in case you have never seen where the gas goes on a 57 Chevy, it's in there. The stainless trim pieces on these cars are in great shape. They stand up to the decades of snow much better than the rusting steel carcasses. On the other side of the property, we found this interesting Edsel wagon that Art kept looking at. This was very close to being a worthwhile buy, except for the rolled up quarter panel and a few minor problems. Well, minor on any other car, like finding a taillight lens. Suddenly, over the horizon, I see an answer to the four-door dilemma. A 71 Rally Nova. I can hardly contain myself. Until I see the other side is completely caved in. Then I am fully contained. Over our shoulder, we spot the Scooby-Doo Mystery Machine. This Ford van is in decent shape, but flipping cars is not just about making a profit. It's about profit margin. You need a car or truck that more than one person really wants. It is hard to have a bidding war with just one bidder. Lots of cars are this way, and you need to do your research before you dump out a lot of money on a car you're just not sure about. Looking across the row of Edsels ready to make their charge down the hill into obscurity, you think about greatness of things being described as the Cadillac of whatever. The opposite end of that analogy would be the four-door Edsel of insert product here. Back near the entrance, a pair of 59 Impalas and a 57 Chevy Bel Air hardtop four-door sit taunting us. Cars that are just so close to being great, but not past the 50% mark of being worth buying. Like dating your first cousin. You can put a lot of time and effort into it, but in the end, you're just going to end up with a bastard kid that just ain't right. For another trip back in time, we visit the garage that has been the center of the family business for over 40 years. Cars, trucks, and tractors have passed through here like an Army MASH unit. Finally, inside Mr. Walker's home garage is what car collecting is all about. Fully restored classic Chevys and Fords. This fully restored Edsel is a great example of what can be done to polish a turd. I only say that because I'm a Chevy guy and would rather be run over by this 56 Chevy convertible than drive a Ford Edsel. At last we get to sit down with the old man himself, Leroy Walker. He tells us how he got started working on cars with his dad on the farm across the street. His dad had a couple hundred cars when the coal mine came and bought the land and moved them across the street in the early 70s. Leroy worked on cars in the yard and tractors in the field. He has been all over collecting cars and bringing them home. He can tell you the story about every single car and truck in the field around the house. He has his own field of dreams and seems content to live out his life on his family homestead. A scrap iron company recently offered him over $1 million for all his cars. He denied the offer. He stores these pieces of American history for us to see and remember when cars had full frames, steel bodies, and crumple zones were only found at the demolition derby. Overall, as far as finding a car to buy, this trip was a bust. But the people are nice and the country is beautiful, and I learned a few things. Mostly, I learned to ask more questions, like, are there any two-door cars out there? Or, are there any short bed trucks instead of all long bed trucks? Still, I can't stop thinking of the perfect dream car we saw sitting in the yard on the way here. It's amazing how much people are like cars. Some are well built, some not so well built. Some are admired, some are not admired. They may sit in their own little world for their entire lives and never experience any new things. And others get beat up along the way, but they do get out. If you are a Midlander, or East Coast, or Left Coast dweller, you will never experience new things and see how the rest of the country lives unless you go beyond your own front yard.